And we are live. Hello, everybody, and welcome to this fireside chat number 15. We're well into the double digits, and it is my great pleasure today to be speaking with Trude, who is in Norway. Welcome, Trude. How are you doing?
Thank you. I'm fine. I'm excited to be here.
Fantastic. So we had a little bit of a technical situation getting ready for this call. And one thing that's very, very interesting to me is noticing how, especially projectors, how are projectors when we have to wait for a little while for something to happen. So Trude's been chilling patiently, and I'm very impressed already. So,
used to waiting, so.
What's that now?
Used to waiting.
Yeah, well, this is the thing, isn't it? If a projector needs to wait for 5 minutes or an hour or a day, then if we are living our strategy, we should be good at just waiting. So, thank you.
Also being the 3-5, I'm used to things not going like smooth.
Yeah, you and me are both 3-5 profile. So we got so much juicy stuff to look at with your chart, and also to hear a little bit about you. And first of all, I just want to ask you, how long have you been in the experiment, and when did you first find out about human design, and how did you come to be here? We're talking with us today.
Yeah, well, I'm pretty new to the experience. I've been like researching for like 3 months now. Human design, I heard about it for a couple of years before that, but then it didn't hit me. But now it's like, yeah, it's so much recognition. It's been a pure joy.
So you've been starting to get some recognition, and it sounds like that has kind of re-energized you with your experiment. Would that be fair?
Yeah, definitely, a lot.
Yeah, great.
I've been like researching ways to know myself better for a much longer time, and human design is for now the thing that resonates more than like astrology and stuff like that. It's more diffuse, or what you call it.
Does it feel like it's more
not that accurate?
Or more accurate? Is that the thing with the human design?
Yeah, it's definitely more accurate. And I keep like getting like aha all the time. So at first, the whole projector thing. You know, I grew up in a small village, and you have to be like within this square to fit in. And being a projector in that environment was kind of hard. So yeah, human design have really changed a lot.
So what was it like growing up in rural Norway? What was the experience of growing up there? Like, did you know everyone in your community, a very close community?
Yeah, we were like 2,000 people living in the community. So everyone knows everyone, and for me it was very hard. I grew up on a farm. My father was outside all the time. My mother struggled with anxiety, but outside everyone thought it was perfect. So you're not supposed to show any struggle. And so the first like 10 years, I was a lot alone and isolated. And when I was like 10, 11, I decided I had to be like everyone else. So, and that was kind of easy. As you see, I got a lot of open centers, so it was easy to me to adapt to others. So I did that.
Pull up your chart so everyone can see. Let's open up your chart so everyone can see, because you do have 7 open centers.
Yeah.
So, and that's what you're saying makes a lot of sense. As far as, is that coming through there, Trude?
Yeah, it is now.
So you have the throat defined, you have the G center defined, you have one channel, which is the 31-7.
Yeah.
Of course, you have the sacral undefined. You have a lot of gates on your spleen on the left there. You have 5 gate activations out of 7. And then if we look at the very top on your head center, you have not a single gate activation. So that center is completely open. So that is exactly as you say with human design, the centers very receptive, and that's where the conditioning goes in of, you know, feeling like you need to be like other people, or, you know, do what people tell you to, or live, you know, live how you're supposed to live. So yeah. So do you have a specific experience of any of those open gates as far as specific conditioning, or did you feel it just generally in all of your being?
More just generally. Like now when I know, it's easier to like, oh, this is the emotional center and this is that. But before that, it's like more general. It's easy to know, to sense other people, and yeah, to know what they want. I was a kind of a pleaser to everyone. Yeah, and like now I can see it, my children are both emotional, so I can really feel their emotional center a lot. Yeah.
Cool. So with the open emotional center for that makes such a lot of sense, doesn't it? That you would be receptive in that emotional center and able to receive that energy, and obviously amplify it so it can be even stronger.
Yeah.
So,
both the good and bad.
Right. Now, the interesting thing here is that for us who are non-emotional authority, we do not have the emotional center defined. It can be very intense to feel all of those things. And when we're growing up, it can be very, you know, we can get in the habit, the conditioning of avoiding anything that might upset that emotional energy. I know when I was a kid, my dad was quite emotional. So I was like, right, try not to, you know, not to get that happen. And that's where we learn that habit of avoiding conflict and truth. Yeah. So would that fit with what that sounds a bit similar to what you were saying of doing things how other people wanted you to do them.
And kind of also feeling what's under, because both my parents, well, my father is a manifester and my mother is a manifesting generator. And they both are emotional as well, but they didn't talk about feelings, or they didn't show them at all. I never heard them raise their voice or anything, but I always felt what was underneath.
Right. Okay.
I could see the feelings anyways.
Right. I'm sure a lot of people, especially as projectors, are going to resonate with this, because there's all that sacral energy. There's all that, I mean, you've got all four of the motors undefined, right? So especially the sacral, especially the emotional center, the solar plexus on the right, in all those centers, it's like so what you're describing, it's like you're living in two worlds, isn't it? There's like the energy world is what's really going on, which you can feel. And then on top of that, there's this layer of like, everything's okay, we're all good, there's nothing to see here, business is normal, let's carry on, just pretending we're all fine.
Yeah, exactly.
So it makes a lot of sense.
Always had a kind of need to poke people to get them to show me what I see underneath. Like say something.
What, sorry?
I always had a need to, or had a urge to try and poke people to let them show me what's underneath the facade or the layer. Yeah.
Like you want to shake them and say, come on, what do you really think?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I do find that refreshing being around people who are in human design, because it's not always easy. There's sometimes funny little conflicts, but at least people are being real with what's going on with them at the time. So I definitely enjoy it. How about you? Do you find that?
Yeah, exactly. And I kind of suck at small talk. It's the chit chat. It's I don't know how to do it. Yeah.
And so so the other thing that's interesting about your chart as well is as a self-projected projector, like, so I guess you would have first of all looked into being a projector, and how is it for, like, how does that feel to be self-projected? It fascinates me, this type. What's it like to live self-projected?
Well, it's kind of new to me as well, but I read the description that Ra had. The sound is strange. You're on mute.
Yeah, I am muting myself because there's a bit of background noise here. And I'm just wondering if anyone else, no, it's not you. I'm just wondering if there's anyone else could mute themselves. I'm just going to mute Anna. Is that better? That's better.
Yeah, it's better.
Great.
Yeah, where was I? Yeah, the projector, the self-projector. It's
self-projected. Shall I say a little bit about that type?
Yeah, sure.
Brilliant. So if we look at the body graph, we can see this yellow diamond right in the center here. Now that's the G center. It's to do with life direction. It's kind of like the spiritual heart. It's like, am I in the right place at the right time? Have I got the right mission? But it's not so much about the heart, the ego, the will. Is more about the willpower. The G center could be thought of as a little bit like a compass that is steering you through life. So all of the reading I've done about the self-projected type of projector, and also my experience of meeting people who are self-projected, is that they all have something to say. Now, I have met self-projected projectors who have kind of shut down their voice, so they don't instantly seem like they have lots to say, because maybe when they were growing up, they were told, you should shut up and do as you're told, which is not a healthy thing to say to a self-projected projector. I think a self-projected would naturally be like a little chattermouth kid who would be just talking about whatever they're feeling and experiencing. Now, the other thing is that having that connected to the throat can make the self-projected type very unpredictable. So they're not here to be controlled by other people. You're not here as a self-projected to be a conformist. You're here to really march to the beat of your own drum and to just kind of move through life in your own unpredictable way. I sometimes feel it's a little bit like the way that manifestors are here to do their own thing, but the difference being that the manifestor has this repelling aura and this capacity for, the motor connected to the throat. Whereas as projectors, we don't have a repelling aura. We have this focused and penetrating aura, but we're more passive. We're a non-energy type, whereas the manifestor is an energy type. So one final thing I'll say is that in a course I did once, my teacher Kashi in that course said that she described how all the types were kind of floating down the river in different kind of boats. So there was people in canoes, there were people in power boats, and she described the different kinds of boats. And then she said, there's the self-projected, and they're just in a totally different boat. I think maybe they were the one in the canoe, just going in totally their own direction, doing what they want to do. So,
yeah.
I wonder if any resonates with what you experienced.
It resonates a lot. I never been a chit chatter. I kind of were mute when I was a child, probably because I never were met. But I remember I used to talk to myself in the mirror, and I also did emotions in front of the mirror when I was a kid. And of course, if I find something I'm passionate about, I can like go on forever talking about that. And also the unpredicted thing, like I moved to Oslo on my impulse. I started school like deciding things very fast, and then it happens quickly. And I also read that you can like, well, say no to things and then suddenly turn around and say yes anyways. For like, you can be not religious for 10 years and then suddenly you are religious. It's like, yeah. So yeah, it sounds correct, the description you're making. And also to express myself, I think it's really important. I've always been writing, and I started taking photographs as well. So it's like I find ways to express myself even if my speaking is not welcome.
I mean, this gate number 1 that you have on the G center, it is all about creativity and creative expression. But you can see that that particular gate doesn't connect through to the throat, so it makes sense what you're saying. So if we look at this is what we can do here with this this software. We look at gate 1. It's the creative. It's the gate of self-expression.
Yeah.
And that makes a lot of sense. So in its best version, it's a clear assessment of creative value, clarity, and creative expression. This is because you have it activated in the 6th line. So in your Mercury just here, you have gate 1 in the 6th line. So that specifically is that clear assessment of creative value. It's like the role model in that gate. Now on the detriment, the thing to look out for is the risk that subjective appraisal will result in disappointment and creative frustration. Subjectivity and self-expression that may lead to creative frustration. So it's kind of like if people don't get it or it's not being appreciated, then that can end up being frustrating as the creative person.
Yeah.
So that's just a little.
It also the self-projector, it takes like decisions that's not always logic to others. And I wrote this book and I decided that it had to be given out in France. So I started to make it translated in France and try to give it out.
So you wrote a book. Tell us, what was your book? Tell me, what was your book about? What was the subject?
It's what do you call it? Science fiction. It's not like a documentary or anything. It's. So
you wrote a fiction book, a science fiction book, and then you decided.
Not a science fiction, but a fiction book. Yeah. Yeah.
Cool.
And it's like, I think it's based between Euphrat and Tigris. You know, the rivers in and way back in time, and it's like a relation between a girl who's very naturalist and the boy is kind of magical, and cool. You follow them for a little while.
Super cool. And I don't know if is it something that people can get access to if they want to read it? Like, how would people find out more about it if they wanted to check it out?
Well, not yet. I haven't gotten that far yet. I tried to give it out, but now it's like laying there on my computer. I might give it up myself, but you know, Norway is a very small language, so the reading mass, it's like, yeah.
So it's a small audience that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And who knows? Maybe it's something that's a creative expression, which is for you rather than for anyone else to.
Yeah, exactly.
For that.
We'll see.
We'll see. I like that. You're waiting to see what happens, waiting to see if you get an invitation. That's very cool. So let's look now at, that was your G center. Let's just look at some things on your chart here. One thing we can see is that we can check out, if we go to the bottom of here on statistics, we can see the breakdown of channels that you have. Can you see that where it says gates? On the right side there. So you've got 22 gates.
Yeah.
There are a total of 26. So it means that you've got 4 gates that are overlapping. For example, if we look at this gate 26 here, you can see it's red and black.
Yeah.
We can also see, for example, that Neptune, that's it, the 26 is red and black. So you have, overall, you have 10 gates in the collective circuitry and then 6 in individual and 6 in tribal. So it does make sense that you're naturally going to be working in the collective, working with a wider audience, maybe people that you don't know.
Yeah.
Also, if we look at the channel that you have right here, the channel of the alpha, this is a channel in the collective circuitry. So we can dive. Should we have a look at this channel here, Trude?
Sure, we can. I'm kind of ambivalent to the channel.
You're ambivalent towards it?
Yeah.
It's your only one, darling. You've got to, this is your channel. It's the one that you've got.
I know.
So it's the channel of the alpha. It's a design of leadership for good or bad. And it's made up of 2 gates, which are gate 7, which is the army, which is the role of the self in interaction, and gate 31, the gate of influence. Now, I can't remember if it's the gate or the channel, but one of them has the nickname of the general. And Ra talks about how it's actually all about being ready to lead, being prepared as a leader. And that when the time comes, you will be invited. If there's like a time of crisis where we need special leadership, historically, that this general would have been brought out to say, right, you now lead us, because we don't need a committee to make decisions. We don't need a slow democratic process. We need someone who's going to get the job done, and then afterwards give up the power. Afterwards say, right, we're done. We got the mission done. So this could be something to look out for, as life unfolds. Then this you may find yourself being invited. And it also makes sense as well that with a channel like this, that you're not designed to be kind of, it's very an experience from maybe someone who's a 4th line, who's, the 4th line is the opportunist. So the 4th line is all about the connections that come from people you've described how you spend a lot of time on your own with your creativity. So there's weighting as a projector, and this channel has even more weighting to it. But when the time comes, you're here when it's correct, and it's the correct invitation. You're here to kick ass, basically.
Looking forward to that.
Let us know how it goes.
But I'm fine with waiting for now.
Nice, very nice. And I
but
guess
also I feel that I have a voice that I want to use for like public. So yeah,
it was really interesting what you were saying about the expression not always being logical.
Yeah, the decision for the self-projector.
If we look at the body graph, say again?
Yeah, the decision making for the self-projector is not always logic, and can be like difficult to grasp for others.
And so what it says about being a self-projected projector is that the authority, the way that it works, is for you to talk and express and communicate your truth, but without thinking, just letting the words come out from your body as you're feeling it. And then as you speak, you can then hear the sound of your own voice. And the other, interestingly enough, the other gate that you have right here, this gate 13, is actually the gate of the listener, the fellowship of man. So you have that there, universal ideas and values in an ordered framework which inspires humanistic cooperation. I have that one. I think we were talking about this, weren't we, Trude, about people sharing, just talking, and you have the gate of the listener.
Yeah, I get a lot of stories from people, and a lot of like extreme stories often from life.
So it's like people just know that there's something about you that they can talk to you.
Yeah.
Like that?
Yeah, that resonates. It's like I can meet someone for 5 minutes and they tell me about a bad divorce or something from the childhood, or So I kind of, I'm doing this art project with this. I think it's inspired by this gate, where I meet up with people and have them tell me a story from their life. and I take pictures, and then it's how it comes out. It's up to me if it's a poem or the story, or yeah.
That's super juicy. That's super fun.
It's fun. I love that gate actually.
And that's nice as well, isn't it? Because it's like you're really using all those open centers to let other people in, and then having a creative expression of that. So that sounds like it really uses that gate 1 and that gate 13 and your open centers as well to sample that that experience. Super cool.
And also like
so are there any...
sorry, when you had this video about the sun gate, which was also a big like aha moment for me, because I have the 28 in my sun.
So this is your sun gate up here at the top right, and the personality sun is in black, and this is kind of like why you're here. You know, you came onto the earth on that day. This and that's this gate down here, and yeah. So how is that? So you've been looking into that gate. What have you found so far about gate 28?
Yeah, it's like searching for the meaning of life. I've been doing that since I was a little kid, and I kind of been doing it for the first part of my life. I've been doing it through like the dark stories, like stories about life and death moments, and now I'm getting more into the light experience of life, and also of course to find human design with that gate in the sun. It's like amazing. And I also realized it's a part of the incarnation cross, and I thought that unexpected was like only one definition, but there are actually 4. And I've been reading the cross before and didn't recognize it until I realized I had the unexpected 3, and it was like, yeah, that's so me. It says that life is a struggle, but you have to find what you're passionate about, because then that makes the struggle worth it. And yeah, it feels very natural that that's a part of who I am. I'm working as a pediatric nurse, and I've been working with children a lot. And I find this, that I meet people who I try to talk about my work with, and a lot of people don't want to talk about such tough things in life. So it's kind of hard to, how do we move on when we don't dare to talk about like injuries, severe injuries, parents who are molesting their children, and yeah, bad stuff. So that's kind of a thing I want to use my voice on.
It seems like a similar theme to what you were describing in your childhood, how you could see through the bullshit and see what was really going on. Interestingly enough, this gate 57 here, Natalie refers to this gate here as the bullshit detector gate.
Mm-hmm.
So it's this gate 57 on the spleen is the gate of intuitive clarity. So it's that sort of knowing. It's being able to just see what's happening and have that clarity in that situation. So it's goodness, we need more people to be authentic and be real and be saying what's actually going on, right?
Yeah, so true. But you have, like, I'm getting there recently myself, so I first have to get it first before I tell anyone else to get there. So yeah, I feel I'm in the beginning of being a guide, be able to be a guide. Yeah.
The last interview we had was with Eugenia, and she's also self-projected, as I believe is Ron as well. Also self-projected. So it was interesting because we had this thing about, as a self-projected projector, your voice has two functions, because it can be an outer authority for other people, right? So if you're invited to lead, like we talked about the gate set, the channel 731, if you're invited to lead, or if you're invited to guide someone, then your voice is an outer authority, which they can then hear, and then they can check it against their inner authority, and they will either resonate with it or not. Now that's a very different function to you speaking in order to get clear about what is correct for you.
Yeah.
So your voice has two functions. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does, definitely. And at least I've listened to both the videos, and especially when Rod said he meets people and then he says something and it's like, did that come from me? I recognize that a lot myself. It's like, did I say that?
Isn't that the beautiful thing, though, that happens with human design, where when you let go, it's like, it's the voice, or it could be you start doing something and you're watching yourself going, wow, what's going, oh, okay, she's doing that now, he's doing it. It's like that.
Yeah.
I identify with that a lot.
Yeah.
Exactly. I also wonder if it might be a third line thing, because the third line, do you ever find yourself doing things even if you know it's not going to give you the result you want, but just because you want to see what's going to happen and to experiment?
Yeah, I listened to your video when you talked about the day in 3-5 Life, and you told about the bike. You were carrying a lot of, I don't know, buckets, and I was just laughing to myself because I got so many stories. I remember as a child, I wanted to take the calf from the farmer house out and have it like a dog, and my father said, yeah, just do it, okay? And the calf didn't want to go anywhere, so I stood there trying to drag the calf along. My parents were standing in the window laughing because they probably knew that wouldn't work. And also I'm picking up my children. I got my 4-year-old in the back. I carried all the bags and shopping bags, and just because I can. And then I see my neighbor, who I know is a generator. She got a stroller and 2 kids and just walking on. So you just have to try things just because you have to see if you can do it or not. I don't know if it maybe means that we have more energy being a 3-5, because I don't feel burnout that much as people are explaining on that wasn't the first thing to strike me as a projector.
It's an interesting thing, because I've noticed with the self-projected projectors, most of the self-projected projectors I know are fairly energetic, and I don't mean they're lifting bricks and carrying bits of wood around like generator work necessarily, but self-projected projectors, I don't think I've ever come across a self-projected who is in that that deep deconditioning that some of us do, where we've just got no energy to do anything. I've not read about this, but I've just noticed by what I've observed that self-projected projectors always seem to have some energy moving in them somewhere, that there's something ready to kind of come out in some direction, who knows which way, but there's something ready to sort of bubbling under the surface. Does that resonate?
Yeah, it does, actually. Yeah, because I do feel like now I'm exhausted and I need to, but it doesn't last very long. It's like I can have a good night's sleep and I'm back. So yeah, but that makes, I'm new to this, and I have a lot of open centers, so it could be the not self as well, but I don't think so.
Yeah, it's interesting. It'd be interesting to check with other. I mean, if there's a self projector watching this who agrees, they could let us know, or if a self projected has a totally different experience, that'd be very interesting as well. So
yeah, definitely.
Of course, you do have the. Do you know which are the 4 motors that you have undefined down at the bottom right? Are you familiar with the motors?
Yeah, it's the root center, the ego center, and the emotional center. No, yeah, and the sacral.
Yeah, and of course the sacral, because you're not a generator. So all self-projected projectors have those 4 centers undefined, and then that you have the spleen undefined as well. So you're what's termed a non-energy projector.
Yeah.
So there are some people who have like the spleen connected to the G, or the spleen connected to the throat, or all of those. But it's for you, it's only above the G center. And of course, you have the open head and the open ajna as well. Totally open head with not a single gate activation at the top, and then just those 2 gates, which are on the ajna center. So how is that to be like open in the head and the ajna as well?
To me, it was like kind of a relief to to know that I'm open, because it's like I can feel the pressure if I try to like learn things through my head, or think too much, or around like as in school, which demands you to use your head. It's difficult.
I would imagine this must be a really common experience for all different types when they have the undefined head and the ajna. Of course, if the ajna is undefined, the head has to be undefined. But it's one of the pressure centers, and so having an open head center is like the worst thing you can do for that person is to put them under pressure and say to them, right, what's the answer to this question? You've got to come up with this right now. It's the pressure to think. And, I mean, I don't know if you've noticed it, but in this conversation, it's like, it seems like you come out, it's like things come out best when there's not too much pressure. It's like, there's like an invitation for you to find what you want to, just find what comes out there, not have to think of something on the spot. And of course, that old teaching model of the teacher picking on a kid and saying, right, what's the answer to this question, could possibly be the worst thing that you could do to an open head and ajna child, because you're just not built that way, right?
No, school was kind of hard. It was a struggle to get through. So and also like the homework at home, having my father who's a manifestor trying to help me with the homework, it was like, it's not very good learning situation.
What was that?
But I notice I can take a lot in when I do it from my focus. So when there's something I'm interested in, I'm just like sucking it all in. So
Now you do have 3 of your variable arrows pointing towards the right, and that's also the more abstract way of learning, right? So it makes a lot of sense. And I think our school system, and I used to be a teacher and a Steiner Waldorf teacher, and I think that the traditional teaching system is very much based around the logical mind. And when we study human design, we know that we learn with all of these centers, and probably most of the wisdom is actually below the throat, so, and especially with these open centers, they're designed to be receptive and to take things in, which, as well with you do not have those 2 pressure centers. Not only do you not have the head and the root, the 2 pressure centers defined, you've also only got 2 gates on the root, you've got none on the head, and then the next center after the pressure center, that pressure comes in at the head, and that goes to the ajna, where you're open there as well. The pressure in the root comes in at the root, and it goes to the left to the spleen, to the right to the solar plexus, and straight up in the sacral. Well, you're undefined in all those centers as well. So it really does make sense that being in a pressure environment is not going to bring out the best in you. And I just hope one day we can have some schools where the teacher knows this about kids and says, well, hey, that kid's got these pressure centers undefined. Let's find a different way to work with them. So how do you manage that now with working with pressure? Because I know a lot of people will be interested in that as well, like how you do manage that now in your work and in your life.
Well, that's the thing though. I just want to say this before I go into that, but the thing though is with the systems, like the school system, as you were talking about, and also I've been working in the health system for a long time, and they're so like narrow. Even though the world is moving forward, I feel like they've been standing still for like ages. And living in Norway, which is like, we are doing well material-wise, and it's so much potential to do something about this, but the willingness is not that big. So, but yeah, I still work in the health system, and I'm looking for ways to get out, because it's just, I'm fine when I'm in the patient room and doing the healthcare for the patient, and I'm working with kids, so the kid and the parents. But as soon as I'm outside of that room and in the environment with the colleagues and yeah, the doctors and the other nurses, it's more difficult. And also the system is built like that we get money for how sick the patient is. So the sicker the patient is, the more money the system gets, and it's just so opposite from what I want to work with. So yeah, I'm managing because I need to have the money and because I'm fine with the patient being in the room alone with it, but in general it's not where I want to be. But I would love to have an influence to change that system.
Such an interesting picture with the, you know, we call it a health system, but it's more of a sickness system, isn't it? It's more of an illness system, because it's all about who like that. That's crazy, and I'm sure that's the same in a lot of countries. That, you know, the more ill the person is, the diagnosis then opens up a cash flow of money. And so there's a lot of incentive, you know, there's a lot of people who benefit from that person being sick. Whereas if that if that person's healthy, then it's not good, right? But of course, there's people in the system like you who want people to be healthy, but there's like a contradiction, isn't it? It's like
because I think every nurse and doctor wants the patient to get well, but then you have the economics and the politicians that like build the system and want to hold it like this, because it's like rolling the money in the welfare system in Norway, and it's how we make money, the welfare system, and the oil is it's
so
my
it seems again like that's another example of where the energetics of the system are one thing, and then the kind of the kind of polished version that we share, that we say the fiction of this is what we say is going on, and then what's really going on. You know, it's that same theme again, isn't it? Of you being able to see the difference.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, do you feel like other people around you see that as clearly as you, or do you feel they don't care, or?
Both. Some of them are just, they don't care and they're not interested to see it that way, but there are also some who see it that way, but not as clearly. So, but that's in general. I don't know if Norway is I don't think there's that many people into human design or into like looking inside to be more authentic yet. I think we're a bit behind on that compared to other countries.
I have seen someone from Human Design Norway who's created some very interesting images, some quite original images with different graphics for the different centers. I think they have a like a compass in the G center and a battery in the sacral. And so I don't know if you've connected with other human design people in Norway, but I think they're out there. And I think also there's a guy called Christos, I think his name is, who did a festival, a human design festival in, I think it was in Bulgaria last year, or somewhere sounding quite bohemian. And I think he's from Norway originally. So I've come across one or two people.
But the good people tend to move out. So no, I'm just kidding. But yeah, I do know some people into human design. I do, but I don't think, yeah, it's not.
And do you think your ability to see what's going on, do you resonate with that being like a projector superpower, you know, that capacity to really see what's happening?
Yeah, definitely.
Because we hear a lot, don't we, about projectors being upset we've got no energy, you know, it's tough being a projector. And of course, that's true. We have those unique challenges as a projector because we're a non-energy type, like the reflectors, or you know, they are a non-energy type as well. But then we do have this capacity for clarity and seeing that, you know, was also there in your chart, the thing with the clarity. So
yeah, and I love that we were able to see. I wouldn't be any other type if I
no, that's really nice to hear.
But like, of course, the first week when I looked at my map, I was like, oh my God, poor me, all those open center and 3-5 and everything was wrong. But it took me a week and I was like, hey, this is so cool. So yeah, I think it's...
how long was it before you heard that thing about how the open centers is where you go to school to obviously clear the not self and the programming and conditioning, in order to then be able to make money as a guide in those open centers, right?
It wasn't the first thing I heard, no. But I heard it quite fast, that it was like very deconditioned. I think that was the first thing I heard about the open centers.
I mean, for anyone with open centers, they often, I don't know about you, but often people that, you know, someone reads their chart or says, you know, we always talk about, oh, you've got this, you've got the G center, you've got the throat, you've got the, oh no, you haven't got the emotional center, you haven't got the head, you haven't got the spleen. And it's this kind of like, well, I don't have anything, you know, and it's kind of like, actually, we all have all of the centers, they just work in different ways. And exactly. I actually think this is mirrored in our society, where the kind of the yang, the doing, the being active, the creating change side of it is very highly valued. Whereas being receptive and just being in a state of presence where you can, you know, the power of receptivity is vast, right? It's like Mother Nature, the feminine energy is like receives the light from the sun and creates this whole, you know, trees and animals and all these things. So
yeah, it's not that welcome. But yeah, but I kind of, now I just love my open center because they make me see so much more from people and so much more diversity. So yeah, I find them so helpful to see what's going on actually. Yeah, but I'm still learning how to be constructive, especially around people who are like not self and sending out a lot. It's kind of difficult to be in that and not saying anything about it or not taking it in as my own.
Right. Okay. So this is a very interesting, juicy topic, isn't it? Right. So you found out you're a projector. You've got all these undefined centers which are receptive, which are taking in the energy, and not only are they taking it in, but they're amplifying it and projecting it up bigger. And then it's like, damn, now I need to find some people to hang out with that actually, you know, it's either it's a joy and it feels good, or there's someone that you can guide there, where there's an invitation to be able to, you know, somehow create some change there. So do you find that mainly at work or in your personal life with family or with friends? Where do you find that the most intense?
I got like some friends, so like 3-4 friends that really works well with, and I find ways at work. It's hard, but I find ways to. I seem to find back doors. If people reject, I just listen and watch and find another way to say something, and yeah, try different ways, and somehow it tends to go in one way or another.
Do you find you do that little side step to just sort of
Yeah. Or else I just, no, some people are just, no, not going there.
Yeah.
Definitely a lot
Yeah.
of people.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah.
Not worth it.
Right.
But then you have like not clear invitation, but still like you can sense that they are like questioning, or they like a bit open, and you just have to wait and watch and see how the right angle is.
And do you work with, because you may have heard the expression of saying, you know, the question is a projector's best friend, to ask good questions, you know. So for example, if you were like, well, that could be an invitation, but I'm not sure. And then, you know, the question could be, well, okay, you've just asked me this question. Now, do you really want me to tell you the truth, or you just want me to say something to make you feel good?
Yeah.
Which
well, yeah. Before I heard of human, I always loved questioning, and Socrates is a big a big deal for me. Like going around asking questions is, yeah. I think maybe I love asking questions, but I don't think I don't think a lot of people want to hear the right answer. No.
So I guess it may, again, not like, they may be just saying what they think they're supposed to say, and it's like you need to feel in yourself, do they really want my be honest here, or they just yeah.
But I'm just in the beginning to hear that difference. Definitely. Some people it's easy to hear it, but a lot of people it's like, yeah, was that a question for me to answer, or was it not? Yeah.
So I'm just checking in the comments, and Raluca has shared that she can't stand small talk more than a few minutes either, which is interesting, isn't it? Because I think I can't remember if Raluca has the gate 13 as well. So it's kind of like maybe the listener actually wants to listen to real stuff rather than listening to bullshit. And she also says she likes that question. You just asked me this. Do you really want me to tell you the truth, or do you want me to say something so you just feel good? Yeah, she's going to use that one too. So that's cool. And I guess it's an honest question, isn't it? Because it's, you know, if you're here in life to be in service to other people, which seems like a good idea, it's like, well, it's not an ego thing of like, well, do you really want to know the truth? It's more a case of just saying, well, you know, should I put energy into this? Because if it's going to make a difference, whether you're paying me or not, you know, if this is going to make a difference, then sure, I'll put some of my energy into it. But if not, hey, you know what? I'll just hang on to my energy, because I don't have, you know, that energy the generators have to throw around. So yeah, that's nice. It's clear.
Definitely.
How is it managing, obviously doing work that's kind of, for now, it's not your ideal job. Do you have any tips for how you manage your energy you said that you sleep when you need to. Is there anything else that you do to look after your energy?
Well, I love hiking in the nature. So I use the nature. It can be like 10 minutes walk, and really slow walk, so it doesn't have to be fast, and just that seemed to like refresh my energy and empty out all the stuff that doesn't have to be there. I suck at meditating because I need to be in movement. I do a little bit of yoga, but it's just, and writing, it's just doing what like comes natural. I had these two words, content and natural, which like if I question and things, I try to have those words. Is this natural to me? Does it have the content I want it to have? So those two words has been my friend for like a year now.
Okay. So is this the content I want to be engaging with, and is this natural to me?
Yeah.
Makes sense, huh?
I don't know I can't explain it, but it's just something that came to me.
I don't know if it needs explaining, right? It's just like, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that's it. And a lot of alone time as much as I can. I don't have enough of that because I have 2 kids as well. But yeah.
Right. So there's the energy of having the kids as well. How old are your kids now?
8 and 4.
Okay. And
so,
what are their types? Do you get to check out their?
Yeah, they're both manifestors.
Oh my goodness.
6'2".
They're both manifestors, and your dad was a manifestor as well.
Yeah.
Wow.
In the family, it seems like I'm the only projector because I got 3 siblings as well, and all of them are like generator or manifestors or manifesting generators. So
there's a lot of manifestor energy around you, either
the
generators with the manifesting capacity or the manifestors.
Yeah.
And what do you notice about your kids as manifestors? What do you see in how they are compared to maybe other kids?
It's the will that tend to seem it's really strong. If they like put their mind to do something or have something, it just needs to happen. So that's kind of hard to deal with, I think.
Do they have, which motor do they have connected to the throat? Is it the ego motor or the emotional, or?
The emotional.
So they both have one of those channels on the right side, is it, going up to the throat? Like 35, 36 or 12, 22?
So they have like 3-4 channel each.
Yeah.
Quite a lot of channels.
But obviously emotional authority.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And 2 profile, so.
And do they have the will defined in that red triangle?
One of them, the little girl, has the will defined, the boy does not.
Uh-huh.
And then it seems like the chart is quite similar, but they are so different. So, because, the boy seems to be more like a sensitive manifester, while the girl is like, she's like you wrote to me, she's like, raising herself.
And she's one who's 4, right?
She just needs to learn how to inform others, and then she'll be fine, I think.
Right, because we talked about this, didn't we, in a conversation in the Facebook group of like, yeah.
Well, the boy needs a lot more like guidance, yeah.
Yeah. Well, great that they have you to guide them when the timing's right.
When I get the invitation.
When you get invited. Oh, that's so cool. I mean, you know, the manifestor strategy is the only one that isn't natural. That's what Ra says, that manifestors need to be taught to tell people what they're about to do.
Yeah.
You know, whereas it's natural for the generator to respond and so on. So, and he always tells that story about how he went to the door and opened the door and went out because he just wanted to go and he was fine. But then his, you know, parents freaked out. Where have you been? You know, there were people looking for him in the forest and stuff. So it's it's interesting.
Yeah, I haven't like dived into their chart yet. I have had enough bit learning myself first, so I will definitely check them more out now.
I think with kids, you know, it's I've been speaking with a few other projector parents, and it's so interesting that you get that beautiful opportunity to observe the child and see the chart and see before there's been as much opportunity for conditioning and how beautiful that the person who's their primary caregiver probably is someone who can really see them. You know, that's such a gift as a parent to, you know, whether you've looked at their chart yet or not, it's a beautiful thing that you can, you know, embrace their crazy manifestedness, whatever that may be, however that comes out.
Yeah.
What's that like on a practical level? You've got a manifested daughter who's very headstrong by the sound of it.
Yeah, she's like, running around, getting stuff out. Mama, come here, we're gonna do this. And she's like, giving me orders. Get me some juice. She's definitely giving orders.
Oh, it's classic. So Raluca has
the bathroom, taking a shower. She's only 4, so she's like doing a lot.
So she lets you know what she wants to do.
I'm trying to learn her that. She's not
sometimes.
Always. Sometimes she is, but not always. Yeah.
Yeah, Raluca was also looking. It's quite similar age difference. She was looking after 2 manifestors who are 6 and 10 for a friend. So they're 2 years older, and she found that challenging. So I think she was glad to give them back at the end, but I think she learned a lot as well from what she said with that experience.
That's the thing though. With kids, it's of course a struggle, but you learn so much about yourself and people, which I wouldn't have without them. I'm not sure I would like be here if I didn't have the kids. They definitely made me want to be a better person. So
Yeah, I really question, you know, say for a manifestor kid or for all kids, you know, kids usually have a lot of energy, and then we send them to school, and then by the time they come out, they're 15 and they kind of like, and they kind of just have no energy. They're like,
they're like zombies.
Right. And it's like, maybe part of that is the fact that they've got the changes going on inside the body with puberty. But at the same time, you know, it's an interesting thing, isn't it? Because little kids, you know, you ask them, who can dance? And they're like, yeah, me. Who can sing? Yeah, me. They can all do everything. And then we teach them later in life. It's like, you know, you have to learn how to sing or learn how to dance. And it's like, hang on a minute, they knew all that to start with. So
I would love to do something about the school system.
Well,
it's like, it's kind of narrow.
Right.
Ways to learn and ways to, for a 6-year-old boy to sit still for like 45 minutes, it's insane.
Craziness, huh?
Yeah.
And I do feel like the education system is very old, and it's probably from that old 7-centered paradigm of it's mostly intellectual, and it's very much about a hierarchy. You've got the headmaster, you've got the teacher, you've got this sort of grades. And I totally agree with you. I really feel like we have, as projectors, we have a role to guide in this new paradigm in ways that are in alignment for the individual kid. It seems so obvious. I mean, one example, Raluca's 2 kids that she was looking after, when she was going to the airport to return home, I think it was like 3 in the morning or something, and they thought the kids would stay asleep, but the kids were like, we want to come. And there was they're both manifestors, there's no telling them, no, you can't come. And they were like dressed and ready, and they were like, you know, and it's like, whether it be in later life as an adult or as an entrepreneur, that kind of like, you know, this is what we are told about manifestors, is that when they go very quickly.
Yeah.
And, you know, Raluca just commented there, it's 2:30 in the morning and they're ready to go in 5 minutes. And I don't know how your kids are, but most kids I've seen, when they don't really want to go there, they kind of takes them half an hour to get ready. And you're like, have you tied your shoelaces? And they're like, oh.
Yeah, that's the thing. Going to school in the morning is like, it takes so long to get them out the door.
Right.
It doesn't resonate. But there is no other option right now.
Right.
At least for me, people do homeschool and stuff, but I think we need to build something more for several people to maintain.
It's interesting though, isn't it? Because we have this sort of thing of like, you know, of course, it is a skill to learn that sometimes you have to do something you don't want to do to get to what you do want. And you have to not be a snowflake and be afraid of anything that's at all unpleasant. But yeah, I'm not saying that the answer is just to let kids do whatever they want to do the whole time, but I agree we can do it a lot better, basically. That's all I want to say.
Especially like you say, like kids say they can dance, they can sing, they can do all this stuff. Why do we like crush that from them? They're gonna discover that there are things they are better at and worse at eventually anyway. So, but at least they can maintain what they feel is joy. If we don't like,
it would be really nice to find a way to a really good thing. I don't know if nice is the right word, but it'd be beautiful to find a way to share this kind of information with more parents and to be able to, you know, because that's what Ra said. He said, "This isn't for you. This is for the kids coming through." So who knows what's going to happen?
That's really beautiful.
Yeah.
For kids to have like human design or parents who are aware of that, it's a lot of the deconditioning is gone. So I think that's a very nice point from him to have made this system for the children.
For the kids, yeah. And I think also, you know, whether as projectors, whether we are parents or like Raluca spent that time with, you know, her friend and their kids and was able to share some information from human design. I do feel that this is like, you know, I have so much respect for people that are engaging with kids and learning this system and using it. Seems like a really valuable thing to do. So hats off to you as a parent with this. I know it's not always easy, but
not so sure about that yet, but we'll see.
Now let's have another look at your chart. Is there anything else? I mean, obviously there's a lot of things on your chart. Is there anything else that you want to share or you have a question about or you're curious about?
Or maybe that I have all this
has a question about
all these gates in the spleen. It's like they're all hanging gates, but there are still a lot of gates in the spleen, and I was wondering, is it just the impact from each gate, or does that mean something that I haven't?
I think the record I've seen for this one is someone who has 7 gates but no definition. So they have 7 hanging gates in the spleen but no definition there. So it's kind of like, I think that guy might have even been Norwegian. He was definitely Scandinavian. I met him in Bali. Peter is his name, and he's a Gene Keys guy as well. And so, but the thing with the gates is a hanging gate, especially when it's on an undefined center, right? So for example, your 12 is different because on the throat you have that 12, but that energy can move because it can flow down your channel to the G center. The energy can move. Whereas all those gates that are on the spleen, it's like you have all those, that each of those gates corresponds to a fear. So there's different fears, 7 different fears for those 7 different gates. And the thing is, on your own, that energy can't move anywhere very easily. So it's tricky because you kind of like to spend time alone, but then you also need some way for that energy to be able to move, whether it's through the current transit or in connection, maybe with your kids, there's a bridging going on there, or, you know, so that energy, I would say to experiment and find ways for you to be able to discharge that energy, whether it is you're walking in nature or just to look out for if you're noticing yourself feeling those fears. And you could even track it that the gates, the black ones would be conscious. So you might be more aware of the fears on those gates compared to the red ones, which are unconscious. So they may be kind of playing in the back of your mind, in the back of your being somewhere. So I don't have a super clear answer, but I would say that would be a very good direction to experiment in, especially being a 3-5 profile. Another cool thing is you being a 3rd line is perfect for, you know, your kids being a 6th line means that they're living as a third line until around about 28 or 30. So, you know, I would imagine you could be forgiving of their mistakes and help them to navigate through that trial and error process of being a third line.
Yeah, it's yeah. I was kind of like I'm happy that they're moving out of it when they're like 30 or something.
Yeah. Yeah, you know,
for us who are like 3-5, I heard other people say that it's like changing in the middle of life. How does that resonate with you? Or is it just that you tried and tried so many stuff that it's changing because of that? Or yeah.
You know, that's a great question. And for me personally, I don't feel like there's a line where it changes, but I do feel like, you know, there was a time in my life when I was a kid when I was always cutting myself and burning. I was getting burnt, and I've got scars and I've got different scars on my body. And then there was a period of time where I think probably in my 30s, I realized that I was physically very courageous and I was very brave, and I could go into all sorts of, and I realized, hey, you know what? I know how to do that. So that, I think a third line who's experimented can be a very good person to keep you safe, because we know where the edge is, right? It's like if you walk on the edge there, and if you go too far that way, you're going to fall in the water. Then we've probably tried it. So we probably know how close to the edge we can walk before we fall in. Then what I discovered for me personally was, I realized, well, emotionally, I do a lot of things to stay safe. So, you know, emotionally, I'm a bit of a coward or a chicken or a scaredy cat or whatever. So then I'm like, damn, what if I could be as courageous emotionally and in relating with other people as I can be physically? So I've had some interesting experiences and I've learned a lot, but I do feel, I mean, I'm 44, and I do feel that I've learned what doesn't work, which means that I can make things work most of the time pretty well, I feel.
Yeah. Yeah, because I feel like things are changing a lot now. I'm getting close to 40, and it seems like it's kind of easier to, the mistakes are like smaller or not that, doesn't have that big of an impact anymore. And also
so it's like more like,
and not being
like
scared.
Fine-tuning, maybe, like you're fine-tuning the mistakes, so it's kind of like not big, disastrous, catastrophic mistakes, but just tuning it up.
You don't fall into, and also I don't fall into the rabbit hole when I make a mistake. I climb faster up from Definitely.
I mean, you do have that gate 18, which is it's the gate. I think it's the gate of judgment. Let's have a look. It's the channel of judgment for sure. That 1858. So, yeah, this is work on what has been spoilt, the gate of correction, and it's in the collective circuitry. One of the things I loved about finding out I'm a third line is, it's like, hey, I fucked up. And I'm just like, yeah, that's just happens sometimes. And I forgive myself. And then I get on with, you know, how do I fix it? Or, you know, do I need to say I'm sorry? Or, you know, like, I don't have that self-judgment on myself. And if someone's upset with me, I'm okay with that as well, because they're just doing what they do. And, you know, I didn't, my intention was never to break the thing, but sometimes that happens, you know?
Yeah, definitely. It's I've learned to, in relationship, when I make mistake, I can say sorry, and if it doesn't help, it's okay. It's not about me anymore.
Yeah, I had that one. I definitely resonate. Like, it's like that thing of like, well, like, hand up, yes, I fucked up.
Yeah.
And then the other person's like, rah, 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 rah. And then I'm like, okay, I definitely fucked up. I'm sorry. Can we, you know, what could we do to repair this situation between us? And then in this instance, the woman was like, ah, ah, ah. And I was like, no, seriously, like, can we you know, and she was like, no, there's nothing we can do. It's broken beyond repair. And I was like, okay, well, I'm sorry. And
yeah,
oh, you
good
know,
luck to you. Yeah.
what else can I do? Maybe we'll
Yeah.
talk again in the future. So yeah, that's I think that kindness often wins, you know, kindness to yourself and to others. If in doubt, be kind, you know, but without obviously avoiding conflict and, you know, without compromising ourselves. Be kind to ourselves as well as others. So yeah. Well, that's a little about your spleen center. Something else that is interesting is that each of the gates on the spleen matches up with the gates on the emotional centers. So you could look at the gate 32 and gate 49. 49 is my sun gate. It's the gate of revolution. So this one over here, the gate 49, the gate of principles, matches up with this gate here, duration, the gate of continuity. The gate of continuity, the fear is of trying something new that hasn't been proven and that it might go wrong. So it's a very conservative kind of gate. It's like the gate 32 is like, hey, you've noticed all these things that do work in the past, so why not do one of those things because we know it's going to work, which is a very different energy to the third line. So, but that could be a little experiment to compare. Yeah, they match up. So there's a correspondence between, like, gate 18 will match up with gate 30.
So are they stronger together, or?
You may, it's like there's a similar theme playing out on the spleen side with playing out on the, so, you know, think about that when I said, like, gate 32 is very conservative.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, we're only going to try what we've done before. But in the meanwhile, gate 49 in your unconscious is like, hey, let's create new change. And there's this direction with the revolution, you know, the hatchet. Let's chop that off and try some new ways. So there's kind of that polarity between the two of them.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's an interesting thing. And yeah. There's nothing else that that jumps out, but is anything else you want to say or ask about? Should we wrap up here, or are there any questions from anyone watching?
I don't have that much. I'm empty as well.
Yeah, enough's enough, hey? I just want to ask you one final question. What is your kind of, what's the area of human design that you're curious to explore next? Is it your kids' charts in a bit more detail, or is it something else in your chart, or?
The gates more in my chart, and then also, of course, my kids.
Yeah. Super.
I know you're doing this gate thing. It will be interesting to hear how it's going.
Absolutely. Yeah, we're in the study group.
If there's a second round, maybe I'll join.
Well, it's we're just doing it as a pilot, so it's going to get more efficient. And I think in 2 weeks we can't possibly go through all the gates. So I would imagine that it'll you know, some people may have had enough. Some people might want to continue, and it'll continue in some shape. So
interesting.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, thanks for taking the time to talk today and to look at your chart. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks for having me.
I'll see you there in the group. We'll yeah, Raluca's just saying thanks for sharing, and thanks for everyone in our audience who's watching live, and for those of you watching on the replay. Love to hear your comments. If you have anything to say to Trude, or any questions or any observations, they are very welcome. You are invited as a projector, and we will see you next time for another Projector Fireside Gathering. Thanks, everybody. Thank you, Trude.
Bye.
Bye.